Welcome to the Medieval Tavern. Have you ever truly paused to consider the sensory tapestry of a bygone era? Not just the sights, but the smells, the cacophony, the very texture of the air. Tonight, we embark on a journey not through dusty archives or grand battlefields, but into the pulsating, often pungent heart of medieval life, the tavern. Forget your sanitized historical dramas. We're diving headfirst into the raw, unfiltered reality of a place where history wasn't just made, but lived, breathed, and often drunkenly stumbled through. Imagine a scent so potent, so uniquely interwoven with the fabric of daily existence, that it could almost be described as an emotional trauma, a visceral assault on the senses that instantly transports you to a world utterly alien, yet strangely compelling. This, my friends, is the Medieval Tavern. It was more than a mere establishment for quenching thirst. It was the unofficial parliament, the bustling marketplace of gossip, the impromptu theater, and the one democratic space where the rigid social hierarchies of the age momentarily dissolved. Here, a battle-hardened knight, a soil-stained farmer, and a wandering bard could all find themselves equally inebriated, equally vulnerable, and quite often equally relieved of their worldly possessions. It was a microcosm of medieval society, a vibrant, chaotic nexus where stories were born, secrets were spilled, and the very essence of community was forged in the haze of the wood smoke and cheap ale. Before we plunge deeper into this intoxicating world, a quick moment for our modern rituals. If this journey into the murky, fascinating corners of history resonates with you, please take a moment to like this video. Your engagement helps us continue to unearth these forgotten narratives. And if you find yourself captivated by the tales we weave, consider subscribing to our channel. Join our growing community of history enthusiasts who dare to look beyond the polished narratives and into the gritty, authentic past. Furthermore, we invite you to become part of our global tavern. Drop a comment below with your city and local time. Let's see just how far and wide the echoes of this medieval gathering place can stretch across the modern world. Your participation transforms this viewing experience from a passive observation into an interactive exploration, connecting us all across time and space. Now, as the digital glow of your screen illuminates your space, let's set the mood. Dim the lights, allowing the shadows to deepen and the imagination to take hold. Perhaps turn on a fan, letting its soft, rhythmic hum mimic the distant murmur of a bustling crowd, the crackle of a hearth, or the gentle creak of ancient timbers. Let the ambient sounds of your modern world recede and allow yourself to be fully immersed. We are not merely watching a video. We are stepping through a portal, easing ourselves into a world where the air is thick with stories. The laughter is unrestrained, and every corner holds a secret. Prepare to leave the present behind, for the medieval tavern awaits, ready to reveal its hidden depths and its enduring legacy. The tavern, in its essence, was a sanctuary from the harsh realities of medieval life. Outside, the world was often brutal, unforgiving, and relentlessly demanding. Famine, disease, war, and the constant struggle for survival were ever-present specters. But within the thick, smoke-stained walls of the tavern, there was a temporary reprieve. It was a place where the weary traveler could find warmth, sustenance, and, most importantly, companionship. The communal nature of the tavern fostered a unique sense of camaraderie. Strangers from different walks of life, united by the common desire for a drink and a moment of respite, would share tables, stories, and often their last few coins. This shared experience transcended social barriers, creating a temporary egalitarian zone where the lord and the peasant could, for a fleeting moment, exist on equal footing, bound by the shared human need for connection and escape. The very architecture of the medieval tavern spoke volumes about its purpose. Unlike the grand cathedrals or imposing castles, taverns were often humble, unassuming structures, blending seamlessly into the chaotic tapestry of the medieval town. Yet, their very simplicity belied their profound importance. They were built for function, not for grandeur, designed to withstand the rigors of constant use and the boisterous energy of their patrons. The low ceilings, often blackened by centuries of smoke, trapped the warmth within, creating a cozy, if somewhat claustrophobic, atmosphere. The sturdy wooden tables and benches, scarred and worn by countless elbows and spilled drinks, bore witness to generations of revelry and despair. Every creak of the floorboards, every chipped mug, every lingering scent was a testament to the countless lives that had passed through these doors, each leaving an indelible mark on the very fabric of the establishment. The tavern was a living, breathing entity, its character shaped by the collective experiences of its patrons, a silent observer of the human drama unfolding within its walls. Beyond its role as a social hub, the medieval tavern was also a vital economic engine. It was a place where merchants struck deals, where laborers found work, and where news, both local and distant, was disseminated. The tavern keeper, far from being a mere barkeep, was often a central figure in the local economy, extending credit, mediating disputes, and even acting as an informal banker. The flow of goods and information through the tavern was constant, making it an indispensable part of the urban landscape. It was a place where the pulse of the town could be felt most keenly, where the ebb and flow of daily life converged and diverged. The clinking of coins, the haggling over prices, the hushed whispers of illicit dealings, all contributed to the vibrant economic tapestry woven within the tavern's confines. It was a place of opportunity and risk, where fortunes could be made or lost with a single roll of the dice or a poorly judged wager. Furthermore, the tavern served as a crucial communication network in an age before mass media. News traveled slowly, often by word of mouth, and the tavern was a primary conduit for its dissemination. Travelers from distant lands would bring tales of far-off kingdoms, of battles fought and victories won, of plagues and prosperity. Local gossip, too, found its fertile ground within the tavern's walls, spreading like wildfire from table to table. Political intrigue, personal scandals, and the latest decrees from the local lord, all were discussed, debated, and often embellished. Within the tavern's lively atmosphere, it was a place where public opinion was shaped, where rumors took flight, and where the collective consciousness of the community was formed. The tavern was, in essence, the medieval equivalent of a social media platform, albeit one powered by ale and animated by human interaction. And finally, let us not forget the sheer entertainment value of the medieval tavern. In an era devoid of television, radio, or even widespread literacy, live entertainment was a precious commodity. Bards would sing epic tales of heroes and villains. Jesters would perform their comedic routines, and local musicians would fill the air with their melodies. Dice games, card games, and various forms of gambling were popular pastimes, providing both amusement and the thrill of risk. Brawls, though often violent and disruptive, were also a form of entertainment, drawing crowds and providing fodder for endless gossip. The tavern was a stage upon which the human comedy and tragedy played out in real time, a vibrant spectacle of life in all its messy, glorious complexity. It was a place where inhibitions were shed, where laughter flowed freely, and where the simple joys of human connection were celebrated with unbridled enthusiasm. So, as we prepare to step fully into this extraordinary world, remember that the medieval tavern was far more than just a drinking establishment. It was a living, breathing testament to the enduring human spirit, a place where life, in all its vibrant and sometimes terrifying forms, truly came alive. Picture this. You've trudged for what feels like an eternity, the relentless mud of a medieval road clinging to your boots, each step a weary testament to the day's arduous journey. The air is damp, a biting chill seeping into your bones, and the pervasive scent of damp earth and unwashed livestock is a constant companion. You've dodged carts laden with turnips, their wooden wheels groaning under the weight, and narrowly avoided slipping in something best left unidentified, a grim reminder of the less than sanitary conditions of the era. Your stomach growls, a mournful protest, a hollow ache that echoes the emptiness in your spirit. You're cold, you're hungry, and you are, unequivocally, done with the day. The sun has long since dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of bruised purple and fading orange, leaving you to navigate the labyrinthine streets of an unfamiliar town by the dim, flickering light of occasional torches and the distant glow of hearth fires. There's no welcoming neon sign here, no comforting GPS voice to guide you to your destination. The concept of a well-lit, clearly marked establishment is a luxury of a future yet unimagined. Instead, you rely on your primal senses, on the subtle cues that have guided humanity for millennia. You follow your ears. The cacophony of the medieval town, usually a jumble of indistinguishable sounds, begins to resolve itself into a symphony of promise. Laughter, boisterous and unrestrained, cuts through the night air. Shouting, not of anger, but of revelry, adds to the growing chorus. And then, unmistakable, the soaring, slightly off-key sound, someone singing very passionately about a goose, a ballad of poultry, perhaps, or a lament for a lost fowl. This is the siren song of the tavern, a beacon in the darkness, drawing you in with its promise of warmth, sustenance, and human connection. The sounds grow louder, more distinct, pulling you like a moth to a flame, a weary traveler to the promise of respite, the rhythmic clinking of tankards, the scrape of benches, the murmur of countless conversations. It all blends into an irresistible invitation, a promise of escape from the cold, the mud, and the solitude of the road. As you round a particularly narrow, refuse-strewn alley, a crooked wooden building leans precariously into the street, as if it too has had a few too many and is struggling to maintain its composure. Its timbers are dark with age and weather. Its windows, if they exist at all, are small and grimy, offering only tantalizing glimpses of the flickering light within. A sign, weathered and faded, swings lazily above the door, creaking a mournful tune in the gentle breeze. The crude painting on it is open to interpretation. It might be a barrel, or a bear, or perhaps, in a moment of artistic whimsy, both. Its ambiguity only adds to the mystique, a challenge to the weary traveler to decipher its meaning. But there's no mistaking the warmth emanating from its rough-hewn walls, the inviting glow that spills from its doorway, illuminating a small patch of the muddy street. Congratulations, weary traveler. You've found it. You found the tavern. This isn't just a building. It's a portal, a gateway to a world of boisterous camaraderie, questionable libations, and the raw, unfiltered essence of medieval life. The journey to its doorstep has been arduous, a test of endurance and resolve. But the promise it holds within its walls makes every muddy step, every chilling gust of wind, every growl of your stomach utterly worthwhile. The act of finding the tavern in medieval times was an art form, a skill honed by necessity and intuition. There were no street numbers, no clear addresses, and certainly no digital maps. Travelers relied on a combination of sensory input, local knowledge, and often sheer luck. The sounds were paramount. The human voice, in all its varied expressions of joy, sorrow, and drunken revelry, was the most reliable guide. The smell, too, played a crucial role, a potent blend of wood smoke, cooking food, and the distinct aroma of ale, carried on the wind like a promise. Visual cues were more subtle. A lantern hanging outside a doorway, a cluster of horses tethered nearby, or the telltale lean of a building that suggested centuries of convivial chaos within. These were the breadcrumbs that led the weary to their haven. Beyond the immediate sensory experience, the location of the tavern itself often held significance. Taverns were typically situated near major thoroughfares, market squares, or the town gates, strategically placed to intercept travelers and capitalize on the flow of commerce and human traffic. They were often nestled amongst other essential services: a blacksmith, a baker, a stable, forming a small, self-sufficient ecosystem designed to cater to the needs of both locals and transients. This proximity to other businesses meant that finding one often led to finding the others, creating a convenient hub for all manner of transactions and interactions. The very fabric of the medieval town was woven around these vital establishments, making them integral to the daily rhythm of life. The journey to the tavern was not merely a physical one, it was a psychological transition. As you approached, the anxieties of the road, the worries of the day, and the ever-present threat of the unknown began to recede. The sounds of the outside world, the barking dogs, the distant cries of street vendors, the clatter of hooves on cobblestones, slowly gave way to the more intimate, enclosed sounds of the tavern. The cold, damp air was replaced by a palpable warmth, a comforting embrace that promised respite. The dim, uncertain light of the street yielded to the flickering, inviting glow of the hearth. This transition was a deliberate act of shedding the burdens of the external world and preparing oneself for the unique social dynamics of the tavern. It was a moment of anticipation, a quiet prayer for a warm meal, a strong drink, and perhaps a friendly face. For many, the tavern was a destination, a pilgrimage of sorts after a long day's labor. For others, it was a temporary refuge, a place to pass the time between tasks or to escape the confines of a cramped home. Regardless of the reason, the act of seeking out the tavern was a conscious decision to engage with a particular facet of medieval society. It was an acknowledgement of the need for community, for entertainment, and for a brief escape from the often monotonous routines of daily life. The journey, though perhaps short in distance, was significant in its intent, marking the boundary between the public sphere of work and the semi-private, convivial space of the tavern. And what of the dangers finding the tavern? While it offered sanctuary, the journey to it, especially after dark, was not without peril. Unlit streets, lurking shadows, and the ever-present threat of brigands or petty criminals made the approach a cautious affair. One had to be vigilant, aware of one's surroundings, and prepared for any eventuality. The promise of the tavern was often balanced by the risks of reaching it. Yet, the allure was strong enough to overcome these fears, a testament to the profound need for the services and camaraderie that only the tavern could provide. The journey itself became part of the experience, a small adventure before the larger one began within the tavern's welcoming, if somewhat disreputable, embrace. Finally, consider the anticipation that built with each step closer, the growing crescendo of sound, the intensifying aroma, the gradual appearance of the tavern's silhouette against the night sky, all contributed to a rising sense of excitement. This wasn't just about finding a place to eat and drink. It was about finding a place to belong, if only for a few hours. It was about the promise of stories, of laughter, of shared humanity. The tavern, in its unassuming way, represented hope and connection in a world that often felt isolating and harsh. The journey to its doors was a journey from the mundane to the extraordinary, from solitude to community, from the cold, indifferent world to the warm, beating heart of medieval life. And as you finally reached that crooked wooden door, the sounds and smells now overwhelming, you knew, with a certainty that transcended mere logic, that you had arrived. The adventure was about to begin. The door, a heavy, splintered slab of oak, groans in protest as you push it open, a sound so mournful it seems to be auditioning for a haunted house. It's not just a creak, it's a lament, a deep, resonant sigh that echoes the countless times it has opened to welcome the weary and the boisterous alike. The hinges, rusted and protesting, shriek a high-pitched complaint, a stark contrast to the muffled roar of conversation that immediately engulfs you. This is your first true sensory assault, a prelude to the immersive experience that awaits within. The transition from the cold, damp, and relatively quiet street to the interior of the tavern is abrupt, almost violent. A sudden plunge into a world teeming with life, noise, and an overwhelming sense of immediate, visceral reality. Inside, the warmth hits you first, not a gentle, comforting warmth, but a thick, oppressive heat, like a physical entity wrapping itself around you. It's too warm, a humid blanket woven from the exhalations of 100 bodies, the lingering heat of the hearth, and the fermentation of countless spilled libations. The air, a palpable presence, assaults your nostrils with a complex bouquet of odors. It's like a drunken handshake, firm, slightly clammy, and utterly overwhelming. The dominant notes are smoke, thick and acrid, clinging to every surface and permeating every breath. This isn't the pleasant aroma of a crackling fireplace. It's the dense, eye-watering haze of poorly ventilated wood smoke mingled with the cloying sweetness of stale ale and the sharp tang of unwashed bodies. Wet wool, a constant companion in medieval life, adds its own peculiar, damp, earthy scent, while the questionable tang of mystery meat, a euphemism for whatever unfortunate creature found its way into the stew pot, provides a greasy, animalistic undertone. This is not a place for the faint of heart or the delicate of nose. It is a place of raw, unvarnished existence, where the senses are constantly bombarded, leaving no room for polite sensibilities. The visual landscape is equally striking. The ceiling, low and heavy, seems to press down on you, a dark, smoke-stained canopy that has absorbed centuries of revelry and despair. It's a claustrophobic embrace, a stark reminder of the confined spaces that characterized medieval life. Below, the floor is not paved, not tiled, but simply dirt, packed earth, worn smooth by generations of heavy boots, spilled drinks, and the occasional brawl. It's a testament to practicality over aesthetics, a surface designed to absorb the inevitable mess of a busy tavern, and everything, absolutely everything, is slightly damp. The tables, the benches, the very air itself seems to exude a pervasive moisture, a lingering residue of spilled ale, sweat, and the general humidity of a crowded, unventilated space. This dampness contributes to the unique aroma, creating a humid, almost primordial atmosphere that clings to your clothes and your skin. There are no menus here, no neatly printed lists of offerings to peruse at your leisure. The concept of a waiter, a dedicated individual to attend to your every need, is an alien one. Service is direct, often gruff, and entirely transactional. You approach the counter, you state your desire, and you receive your sustenance. There is no pretense of fine dining, no elaborate rituals of service, and absolutely, unequivocally, no quiet conversations. The din is deafening, a cacophony of overlapping voices, raucous laughter, the clatter of tankards, and the occasional outburst of song or argument. To be heard, you must shout. To understand, you must strain. It is a place of unbridled noise, a constant, pulsating hum of human interaction that is both overwhelming and strangely exhilarating. As your eyes adjust to the dim, flickering light cast by tallow candles and the glow of the hearth, you begin to scan the crowded room for a vacant spot. Every table seems occupied, every bench overflowing with bodies. Finally, you spot a small, unoccupied patch near the hearth, a coveted location promising warmth and a degree of comfort. You make your way towards it, navigating a maze of sprawling legs, discarded cloaks, and the occasional sleeping patron. As you approach, a faint sheen catches your eye. The spot, you realize with a sinking feeling, is wet. With what? The question hangs in the air, unspoken, a silent agreement between you and the ancient timbers of the tavern that some mysteries are best left undisturbed. To ask would be to invite a truth you are not prepared to confront, a detail that would irrevocably alter your perception of this already challenging environment. Better to simply accept it, to acknowledge the pervasive, unhygienic reality of the medieval tavern, and to find a way to make peace with its imperfections. This initial impression is a baptism by fire, a sensory overload that forces you to shed your modern sensibilities and embrace the raw, unfiltered reality of medieval life. It's a shock to the system, a jarring transition from the familiar comforts of your own time to a world where cleanliness is a luxury, privacy is non-existent, and personal space is a foreign concept. Yet, amidst the chaos and the questionable hygiene, there is an undeniable energy, a vibrant pulse that speaks of life lived fully, without inhibition. The tavern, in its unapologetic rawness, is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a place where people gathered to escape the harshness of their daily lives, to find solace in shared company, and to forget, if only for a few hours, the relentless demands of their existence. The very air in the tavern is a living entity, thick with the stories and emotions of those who inhabit it. Each breath you take is a mouthful of history, a taste of the past. The smoke, while irritating to the eyes and lungs, also serves as a kind of visual filter, softening the harsh edges of reality, blurring the distinctions between individuals, and creating a sense of shared anonymity. It's a democratic haze, enveloping everyone equally, from the lowliest peasant to the most esteemed merchant. This smoke, combined with the dim lighting, creates an atmosphere of intimacy, a sense that, within these walls, the usual rules of decorum and social hierarchy are temporarily suspended. It's a place where inhibitions are lowered, where tongues are loosened, and where the true nature of humanity is revealed in all its messy, glorious complexity. The sounds, too, are more than just noise. They are a symphony of human experience, a constant reminder that you are in the midst of a vibrant, living community. The clatter of wooden mugs against rough-hewn tables, the guttural laughter that erupts from a group of revelers, the slurred confessions whispered in hushed tones, the occasional outburst of a drunken song. All these elements combine to create a rich, immersive soundscape. It's a place where silence is a rare and unsettling commodity, where the constant hum of human activity is a comforting presence, a reassurance that you are not alone. This auditory tapestry is a testament to the tavern's role as a social hub, a place where people came not just to drink, but to connect, to share, and to simply be in the company of others. And the dampness, while initially off-putting, is also a subtle indicator of the tavern's constant state of flux. It speaks of spilled drinks, of sweat-soaked bodies, of the very breath of life exhaled into the confined space. It's a reminder that this is a place of constant activity, a dynamic environment where liquids are consumed, emotions are expressed, and the boundaries between individuals are often blurred. This pervasive moisture, combined with the earthy scent of the dirt floor, creates a primal, almost cave-like atmosphere, a return to a more fundamental state of being. It's a place where the veneer of civilization is stripped away, revealing the raw, unvarnished essence of human nature. Ultimately, your first impressions of the medieval tavern are a powerful, multi-sensory experience that challenges your preconceived notions of comfort and cleanliness. It's a place that demands adaptation, a willingness to embrace the unfamiliar and to find beauty in the imperfections. But beneath the grime and the noise, there is an undeniable charm, a vibrant energy that speaks of community, camaraderie, and the enduring human need for connection. It's a place where stories are born, where friendships are forged, and where the simple act of sharing a drink becomes a profound expression of shared humanity. And as you finally settle into your wet spot near the hearth, you realize that despite its initial assault on your senses, the medieval tavern has already begun to work its magic, drawing you into its unique and unforgettable embrace. Let us now delve into a sensory experience that, more than any other, defined the medieval tavern: its aroma. This wasn't merely a smell, it was an olfactory tapestry, woven from countless threads of human activity, natural processes, and the inescapable realities of a pre-industrial world. A medieval tavern possessed its own unique, pervasive, and utterly unforgettable scent profile, a complex blend that once encountered would forever be etched into the memory. It was a full-body experience, an immersive dive into the very essence of the age, a constant reminder of where you were and when you were. The air itself seemed to hum with this pervasive scent, a living, breathing entity that clung to your clothes, permeated your hair, and settled deep within your lungs. At the forefront, the dominant top notes were undeniably those of sour ale. Imagine not just a single spilled mug, but centuries of them. Ale, the ubiquitous beverage of the medieval era, was brewed with varying degrees of skill and hygiene. It was often cloudy, thick, and prone to turning sour if left too long or improperly stored. In a bustling tavern, spills were not an exception, but the rule. Every table, every bench, every inch of the dirt floor would have been saturated with the fermented residue of countless tankards. This wasn't just a fresh spill, it was the accumulated effluvium of generations of spillage, seeping into the very foundations of the building. The yeast, the grains, the faint metallic tang of the mugs, all contributed to this pervasive sourness, a sharp, almost vinegary scent that cut through the heavier aromas and announced the tavern's primary purpose: Beneath this alcoholic overtone lay the robust middle notes of sweat, and not just human sweat, but a potent cocktail of human, horse, and perhaps even mythical sweat. In an age before regular bathing was common practice, and certainly before deodorants, the human body naturally emitted a strong musky odor. Add to this the physical exertion of daily life, farming, traveling, fighting, dancing, and the confined, unventilated space of a crowded tavern, and you have a recipe for an intense human aroma. Travelers would arrive, having ridden for days, their clothes soaked with the sweat of their journey. Farmers would come straight from the fields, their bodies radiating the heat and exertion of their labor. Soldiers, still clad in their armor, would bring the scent of battle and long marches. And then there were the animals. Horses, often tethered just outside or even brought into the tavern for a brief respite, contributed their own distinct, earthy, and undeniably pungent odor. The idea of mythical sweat is a playful nod to the wild, untamed nature of the medieval world, where the lines between reality and folklore were often blurred, and the unexpected was always a possibility. This blend of bodily odors, intensified by the warmth and humidity, created a truly unique and unforgettable human bouquet. And then, the bass notes, the foundational aromas that grounded the tavern in its earthy reality. Moldy bread, a staple of the medieval diet, often went stale quickly, and, in the damp environment of the tavern, would inevitably develop a faint, musty scent. Boiled onions, a common ingredient in pottage and other simple dishes, contributed a sharp, sulfuric tang that lingered in the air long after the meal was consumed. And wet straw, used as flooring to absorb spills and provide a modicum of insulation, added a pervasive, earthy, and slightly animalistic odor. This straw, constantly being trodden upon, saturated with liquids, and rarely changed, would have become a breeding ground for bacteria and mold, contributing a deep, pervasive funk that permeated every corner of the establishment. It wasn't a scent. It was a full-body experience, an assault on the senses that left an indelible mark. It was the smell of life, raw and unvarnished, in an age that had little time for delicate sensibilities. Beyond these primary notes, countless other subtle aromas would have contributed to the tavern's complex bouquet. The faint metallic tang of iron from the blacksmith's forge nearby carried on the breeze, the sweet, cloying scent of honey from mead mingling with the sourness of ale, the pungent aroma of various herbs and spices used in cooking, some familiar, some long forgotten, the acrid smell of burning tallow candles, their smoke adding to the general haze, the faint, almost imperceptible scent of fear or excitement emanating from the patrons themselves. Each of these elements, in their own way, contributed to the rich, multi-layered olfactory landscape of the medieval tavern, making it a truly unique and unforgettable place. The very structure of the tavern, with its low ceilings and poor ventilation, acted as a kind of olfactory trap, concentrating and intensifying these smells. Unlike modern establishments, with their sophisticated air filtration systems, the medieval tavern was designed to contain, rather than dissipate, its internal atmosphere. The smoke from the hearth, the steam from the cooking pots, the exhalations of the patrons, all these elements were trapped within the confines of the building, creating a dense, almost palpable atmosphere. This lack of airflow meant that the smells lingered, permeating every surface, every piece of furniture, every article of clothing. To enter a medieval tavern was to step into a world where the air itself was a living, breathing testament to the lives lived within its walls. And what of the patrons themselves? Their clothing, often made of wool or linen, would have absorbed these smells like a sponge, carrying the scent of the tavern with them long after they had departed. A traveler could be identified by the lingering aroma of ale and wood smoke, farmer by the faint scent of straw and livestock. The smells of the tavern were not just confined to its walls. They became a part of the people who frequented it, a subtle badge of their association with this vibrant, chaotic hub of medieval life. This constant exposure to such a potent array of aromas would have desensitized the medieval nose, making what we perceive as an overwhelming assault a mere background hum of daily existence. The smell of the medieval tavern was more than just an unpleasant side effect of its existence. It was an integral part of its identity, a defining characteristic that set it apart from other establishments. It was a smell that spoke of community, of shared experience, of the raw, unvarnished reality of life in an age before modern sanitation and hygiene. It was the smell of hard work and hard play, of laughter and tears, of triumphs and defeats. It was the smell of humanity in all its messy, glorious complexity. To truly understand the medieval tavern, one must first come to terms with its smell, to embrace its unique bouquet as a window into a world that was both alien and strangely familiar. Consider the psychological impact of such a pervasive aroma. For the weary traveler, the smell of the tavern would have been a comforting beacon, a promise of warmth, food, and companionship after a long and arduous journey. It was the smell of sanctuary, of respite from the harsh realities of the outside world. For the local, it was the smell of home, of routine, of a familiar gathering place where friendships were forged and stories were shared. It was the smell of belonging, of being part of a community. Even for those who found it initially overwhelming, the smell of the tavern would have quickly become an integral part of their experience, a constant reminder of the vibrant life that unfolded within its walls. In an age where sensory experiences were far more immediate and intense than they are today, the smell of the medieval tavern would have been a powerful force, shaping perceptions and influencing behavior. It was a smell that evoked strong emotions, from comfort and camaraderie to disgust and apprehension. It was a smell that told a story, a narrative woven from the countless lives that had passed through its doors. It was the smell of history, raw and unfiltered, a testament to the enduring human need for connection, for escape, and for a place to call, however temporarily, their own. So, as you imagine yourself stepping into that dimly lit, smoke-filled space, remember that the smell was not just a backdrop, it was a character in itself, a silent narrator of the medieval tavern's vibrant and unforgettable tale. Finally, let's consider the lasting impression of this unique aroma Even after leaving the tavern, the smell would have lingered, clinging to clothes, hair, and skin, a subtle reminder of the experience. It was a scent that traveled, carried by patrons into the streets, into their homes, and into the wider world. In a way, the smell of the tavern was a form of communication, a silent advertisement of its existence and its purpose. It was a smell that spoke of life, of vitality, of a place where the human spirit, in all its messy glory, truly came alive. And as we move on to explore the physical layout of this remarkable establishment, keep the memory of its pervasive aroma firmly in your mind, for it is an essential key to unlocking the true essence of the medieval tavern. Tables, scarred with the initials of countless patrons and the marks of impromptu knife games, stood as silent witnesses to generations of revelry and despair. These weren't delicate pieces of furniture. They were sturdy, rough-hewn slabs of wood, designed to withstand the abuse of 1,000 drunken nights. Each gouge, each stain, told a story, a silent testament to the lives that had unfolded around them. Benches, equally robust, creaked under the weight of cloaks, bodies, and questionable decisions. They were designed for function, not comfort, offering a hard, unyielding surface for weary travelers and boisterous locals alike. The floor, as mentioned, was simply dirt, but it was a dirt floor layered with straw, a practical solution to absorb whatever disaster came before you. Spilled ale, dropped food, the occasional bodily fluid, the straw was there to soak it all up, providing a slightly softer, if perpetually damp and unsanitary, surface. This straw, rarely changed, would have contributed its own unique, earthy aroma to the tavern's already complex bouquet, a constant reminder of the raw, unvarnished reality of medieval life. Having navigated the sensory onslaught of the medieval tavern's entrance and its pervasive aroma, let us now turn our attention to its physical manifestation. The layout. Think of the tavern's interior as a masterclass in organized chaos. There was no meticulous blueprint, no carefully considered architectural design, no pre-planned flow for patrons. Instead, tables, benches, and barrels were scattered with an almost deliberate randomness, as if someone had given up arranging furniture halfway through an earthquake, or perhaps a particularly enthusiastic brawl. This seemingly haphazard arrangement, however, served a crucial purpose. It maximized capacity, allowing for the greatest number of patrons to squeeze into the available space, fostering an undeniable sense of intimacy and communal energy, even if it meant constant jostling and accidental elbowing. Every inch was utilized, every corner a potential seating area, every barrel a makeshift table. This organic, evolving layout was a direct reflection of the tavern's dynamic nature, constantly adapting to the ebb and flow of its clientele. The hearth, a roaring, crackling inferno of warmth and light, was invariably the undisputed centerpiece of the tavern. In an age before central heating, the hearth was not merely a decorative element, it was the lifeblood of the establishment, providing essential warmth, a place for cooking, and a focal point for social gathering. Around it, people pressed in, a dense cluster of bodies, vying for the coveted spots closest to the flames. These were the prime seats, guarded with a fierce territoriality. Like treasure, to secure a place by the hearth was to claim a temporary victory against the biting cold of the medieval world, a small luxury in a life often devoid of comfort. The flickering light from the fire danced across faces, casting long, shifting shadows that added to the tavern's mysterious and ever-changing ambiance. It was a place of stories, of hushed confessions, and of the simple, primal comfort of shared warmth. The bar, as we understand it today, was a concept yet to be fully realized. Instead, the tavern's serving area was typically a simple plank laid across a couple of sturdy barrels, or perhaps a rough-hewn counter built into a corner. This makeshift structure, often sagging under the weight of numerous jugs, tankards, and the elbows of eager patrons, was the nerve center of the operation. Behind it stood the tavern keeper, managing the madness with an almost superhuman calm, like a storm god in an apron, dispensing drinks, collecting coins, and maintaining a watchful eye over the unruly crowd. This direct, unmediated interaction between patron and keeper was a hallmark of the medieval tavern, fostering a personal connection that went beyond mere transaction. It was here that news was exchanged, debts were settled, and the occasional argument was diffused before it escalated into a full-blown brawl. The rest of the space was a fluid landscape of tables and benches, often communal, forcing strangers into close proximity. There were no private booths or secluded corners for intimate conversations. Every interaction was, by necessity, public, contributing to the overall din and energy of the room. The tables themselves were often long, accommodating multiple groups, encouraging a free flow of conversation and shared experience. This communal seating arrangement was a deliberate design choice, whether conscious or unconscious, that fostered a sense of collective identity and encouraged social interaction. It was difficult to remain isolated in a medieval tavern. The very layout pushed you into the embrace of the crowd. Beyond the main common room, a medieval tavern might have had a few other functional areas, though these would vary greatly depending on its size and purpose. A small, cramped kitchen, often little more than a hearth with a few cooking pots, would be tucked away, its smoke and cooking smells adding to the tavern's pervasive aroma. Storage areas for barrels of ale, sacks of grain, and other provisions would be dark, cool spaces, often in a cellar or a back room. Some larger taverns might have had a few rudimentary sleeping quarters upstairs for weary travelers, offering a bed that was likely little more than a straw mattress and a rough blanket, a far cry from the comfortable inns of later centuries. These rooms would be basic, functional, and often shared, reflecting the utilitarian nature of medieval accommodation. The lack of formal divisions within the main common room meant that the tavern was a truly multifunctional space. It was a dining hall, a drinking establishment, a social club, a gambling den, and occasionally an impromptu courtroom, or a stage for wandering entertainers. The same tables that held tankards of ale by night might serve as makeshift desks for merchants striking deals by day. The benches that supported drunken revelers could also be used for quiet contemplation or hushed conversations. This adaptability was key to the tavern's success and its enduring presence in medieval society. It was a space that molded itself to the needs of its patrons rather than imposing a rigid structure upon them. Lighting, or the lack thereof, also played a significant role in shaping the tavern's atmosphere. Tallow candles, flickering uncertainly, and the glow from the hearth provided the primary illumination. This created a dim, shadowy environment where faces were often obscured and details were left to the imagination. The low light contributed to the sense of intimacy and mystery, allowing for a certain degree of anonymity within the crowd. It also made it easier to overlook the less savory aspects of the tavern's hygiene, blurring the lines between clean and unclean, new and old. The shadows danced on the walls, giving life to inanimate objects and adding to the overall sense of a living, breathing space. The floor, as previously mentioned, was a dirt floor, but its composition was far from simple. It was a dynamic, ever-changing surface, constantly being trodden upon, spilled upon, and occasionally fought upon. The straw laid over it was a practical, if unsanitary, solution for absorbing liquids and providing a modicum of insulation from the cold earth. This straw, however, was rarely changed, becoming a thick, matted layer of compressed organic matter, saturated with ale, food scraps, and the general detritus of human activity. It would have harbored a thriving ecosystem of insects and microorganisms, contributing to the tavern's unique aroma and its overall sense of lived-in grittiness. Walking across it would have been a squishy, uneven experience, a constant reminder of the raw, unvarnished reality of the medieval world. Despite its apparent disarray, the layout of the medieval tavern was remarkably efficient for its time and purpose. It was designed for maximum social interaction, for the rapid consumption of food and drink, and for the creation of a vibrant, communal atmosphere. It was a space that encouraged mingling, conversation, and the free exchange of ideas and gossip. The very lack of formal structure fostered a sense of freedom and spontaneity, allowing the patrons to shape the space according to their needs and desires. It was a testament to the ingenuity of medieval people who, despite limited resources, created spaces that served their social and economic needs with remarkable effectiveness. In essence, the medieval tavern's layout was a reflection of the society it served: rough, practical, communal, and teeming with life. It was a space where boundaries were blurred, where social hierarchies were temporarily suspended, and where the raw, unfiltered essence of humanity was on full display. Every element, from the central hearth to the sagging plank bar, contributed to an atmosphere that was both overwhelming and undeniably captivating. It was a place where the physical environment actively shaped the social experience, creating a unique and unforgettable backdrop for the unfolding drama of medieval life. And as we move from the physical space to the human element, to the formidable figure who presided over this organized chaos, remember that the layout was not just a collection of objects, but a stage upon which the vibrant tapestry of medieval life was constantly being woven. Every kingdom has its monarch, every manor its lord, but within the boisterous, smoke-filled confines of the medieval tavern, There was a ruler whose authority often surpassed that of any landed gentry, the tavern keeper. This wasn't a job for the faint of heart or the weak of will. It was a position of immense responsibility, requiring a unique blend of shrewd business, acumen, psychological insight, and often a physical toughness that could rival any knight. The tavern keeper was the undisputed sovereign of their domain, a figure of respect, fear, and sometimes grudging affection. They were the orchestrators of the chaos, the silent observers of human drama, and the ultimate arbiters of justice within their walls. Their presence was the very bedrock upon which the tavern's vibrant, often volatile ecosystem was built. Often, the image that springs to mind is that of a grizzled, grumpy man, tougher than a blacksmith's boots, with a booming voice and a ready fist. And indeed, many tavern keepers fit this archetype. They were men hardened by years of dealing with drunken brawls, petty thieves, and the endless demands of a demanding clientele. Their faces were often etched with the lines of countless late nights and early mornings. Their eyes sharp, with an almost preternatural ability to spot trouble before it even began. They moved with an air of authority, their every gesture conveying a quiet command that brooked no argument. Their gruff exterior often masked a deep understanding of human nature, a keen eye for character, and an uncanny ability to remember every face, every debt, and every whispered secret. However, it is crucial to acknowledge that the role of tavern keeper was frequently, and perhaps surprisingly, filled by women. These women were not merely the wives or daughters of male proprietors. They were often the primary, and sometimes sole, operators of these establishments. And if a woman ran the tavern, she was almost invariably sharper than a dagger, and possessed an innate ability to silence a room with a single piercing look. These tavern wives, or Brewsters, were formidable figures, navigating a male-dominated world with an iron will and an unshakable resolve. They were often more adept at managing the complex social dynamics of the tavern, using wit and cunning where a man might resort to brute force. Their authority was not derived from physical prowess, but from an acute intelligence, a deep understanding of their patrons, and an unwavering commitment to maintaining order within their domain. They were the true queens of the medieval night, their presence commanding a respect that transcended gender. Regardless of gender, the tavern keeper's duties extended far beyond simply pouring drinks. They were the ultimate multitaskers, juggling a myriad of responsibilities with remarkable efficiency. They poured drinks, their hands moving with practiced ease as they filled tankards and jugs, often without even looking. They settled arguments, stepping into the fray with a calm authority that could quell even the most heated disputes. They tracked debts, not with ledgers or complicated accounting systems, but in their heads, their memories serving as an intricate mental database of every patron's tab. This mental acuity was essential, as a misplaced debt could lead to a lost customer, or worse, a violent confrontation. They were the ultimate arbiters of disputes, their word often final, their judgment rarely questioned, but their role went deeper than mere management. The tavern keeper was the central repository of local knowledge, the unofficial intelligence agency of the town. They knew everything: who was in debt and to whom, who was having an affair and with whom, and who had shown up under a false name, seeking anonymity for reasons best left unsaid. They were privy to the whispered confessions of drunken patrons, the boasts of returning soldiers, and the hushed negotiations of traveling merchants. This vast network of information made them incredibly powerful figures within their communities. They could facilitate deals, spread rumors, or even provide sanctuary to those in need, all based on the intricate web of knowledge they possessed. To cross a tavern keeper was to risk not just a ban from their establishment, but potentially a social and economic ostracization within the wider community. You simply did not mess with the tavern keeper. Their days were long and arduous, beginning before dawn to prepare for the day's trade, and often ending long after midnight. Once the last drunken patron had stumbled out, they were constantly on their feet, serving, cleaning, mediating, and observing. Their lives were inextricably linked to the rhythm of the tavern, a relentless cycle of activity that demanded unwavering dedication. They were often the first to rise and the last to sleep, their waking hours consumed by the demands of their demanding profession. This tireless work ethic was essential for the survival and prosperity of their establishment, a testament to their commitment to their craft. Beyond their practical duties, tavern keepers also played a crucial social role. They were often confidants, listeners, and even informal therapists for their patrons. People would come to them with their troubles, their joys, and their secrets, knowing that the tavern keeper, with their vast experience of human nature, would offer a sympathetic ear, a word of advice, or simply a strong drink to drown their sorrows. They were the silent pillars of their communities, providing a space where people could unburden themselves, find solace, and connect with others in a way that was often impossible in the more rigid social structures of the time. This emotional labor, though often unacknowledged, was a vital part of their contribution to the social fabric of medieval life. The tavern keeper also served as a gatekeeper, controlling who entered their establishment, and more importantly, who was allowed to stay. They had an innate ability to read people, to discern the honest traveler from the potential troublemaker, the genuine patron from the opportunistic thief. Their judgment was swift and decisive, and their decisions were rarely questioned. This ability to maintain order, often in the face of extreme provocation, was a testament to their strength of character and their unwavering resolve. They were the ultimate bouncers, their authority enforced not just by physical presence, but by the sheer force of their personality and their reputation. Their relationship with the local authorities was often complex. While taverns were often subject to various regulations and taxes, the tavern keeper often held a unique position, acting as an intermediary between the common folk and the ruling class. They could provide information to the local lord or sheriff, but they also had a vested interest in protecting their patrons and maintaining the autonomy of their establishment. This delicate balancing act required considerable diplomatic skill, ensuring that they remained on good terms with both the authorities and their clientele. They were often the unsung heroes of their communities, navigating the treacherous waters of medieval politics with a quiet dignity and an unwavering commitment to their patrons. In essence, the medieval tavern keeper was far more than a mere proprietor. They were a central figure in the social, economic, and cultural life of their community. They were the guardians of a vital social space, the keepers of secrets, and the silent witnesses to the unfolding drama of medieval life. Their strength, their wisdom, and their unwavering presence were the very heart of the tavern, making it a place where people could find not just drink and food, but also community, solace, and a brief escape from the harsh realities of their world. To understand the medieval tavern is to understand the formidable, often unsung, figure who presided over its organized chaos, the true sovereign of the medieval night. Their legacy lives on in the countless stories and legends that emerged from the smoky confines of their establishments, a testament to their enduring impact on the human experience. Now, for the main event, the very lifeblood of the medieval tavern, the reason most patrons braved the muddy streets and the questionable aromas, the drinks, in an age before refrigeration, before widespread knowledge of sanitation, and certainly before the dizzying array of choices offered by a modern bar. The options were, to put it mildly, limited. Yet, within these limitations lay a profound practicality and a surprising variety, each beverage serving a distinct purpose in the daily lives of medieval people. Forget your craft beers, your artisanal cocktails, or your fine wines. The medieval tavern offered a more primal, more essential form of liquid sustenance, often consumed not just for pleasure, but for survival. The undisputed king of the medieval tavern was ale. This wasn't the clear, crisp, carbonated lager you might find today. Medieval ale was a different beast entirely. Cloudy, thick, and often possessing a rich, earthy flavor profile. It was brewed from malted barley, water, and yeast, with hops only becoming a common addition much later in the period. The absence of hops meant it had a shorter shelf life and a sweeter, less bitter taste. Its cloudiness came from suspended yeast and grain particles, which were not filtered out. This meant that every tankard was a hearty, almost meal-like concoction, providing not just hydration, but also a significant source of calories and nutrients. It was, in many ways, a liquid bread, a vital part of the daily diet for people of all ages, including children, as it was often safer to drink than water. The strength of ale varied wildly. Small ale, or table beer, was a low-alcohol brew, consumed throughout the day, even during work, as it provided hydration without significant intoxication. Stronger ales, reserved for evenings and celebrations, could pack a considerable punch. The taste would have been robust, often yeasty, with notes of grain and perhaps a hint of whatever local herbs or spices were occasionally added for flavor or preservation. And yes, it was entirely possible that your tankard might contain someone else's mustache, or a fly, or a stray piece of straw. Hygiene standards were, by modern measures, non-existent, and the occasional foreign object was simply part of the experience. The ale was served at room temperature, often directly from a large barrel, poured into earthenware mugs or wooden tankards, each clink a testament to the enduring human need for a good, honest brew. Next on the menu, for those with a sweeter tooth or a more adventurous palate, was mead. This ancient beverage, made from fermented honey and water, was often considered a drink of celebration, of special occasions, or of the nobility. Though it was certainly available in taverns, mead was sweet, often intensely so, and could be surprisingly strong, its alcoholic content varying depending on the amount of honey used and the fermentation process. It was a drink that carried with it an air of mystique, often associated with ancient myths and heroic sagas. The regret mentioned in the initial prompt is a playful nod to its potency. A few too many tankards of mead could certainly lead to a morning filled with remorse and a pounding headache. Its golden hue and rich, complex flavor would have offered a stark contrast to the more common, earthy ale, making it a coveted choice for those seeking something a little more refined, or simply a quicker path to oblivion. Cider, made from fermented apples, was another popular choice, particularly in regions where apples were abundant, tangy, refreshing, and often with a pleasant tartness. Cider offered a lighter alternative to the heavy ale or the sweet mead. It was served in the same mugs as everything else, and yes, it was entirely plausible that yesterday's stew might still be clinging to the rim. The concept of separate, dedicated glassware for different beverages was a luxury far removed from the practical realities of the medieval tavern. Cider's popularity would have waxed and waned with the seasons, a refreshing drink in the warmer months and a comforting one when the autumn chill set in. Its crispness would have provided a welcome palate cleanser amidst the rich, often greasy, food offerings of the tavern. And then there was water, the boldest move of all, in an era where clean, potable water was a rarity. Drinking directly from a well or a river was a gamble with potentially fatal consequences. Water sources were often contaminated with human and animal waste, leading to a host of diseases. This is precisely why ale and other fermented beverages were so prevalent. The brewing process, involving boiling and fermentation, made them significantly safer to consume than untreated water. To order water in a medieval tavern was to invite suspicion, or perhaps to demonstrate a naive disregard for one's own health. It might kill you, not immediately, but slowly and painfully, through dysentery or other waterborne illnesses. So, while technically available, water was rarely the drink of choice for anyone with a modicum of sense or a desire to see the next sunrise. Beyond these mainstays, other, less common beverages might have made an appearance. Perry, a fermented pear drink, would have been available in pear-growing regions. Various fruit wines, made from berries or other fruits, might have been produced locally, offering a seasonal treat. Stronger spirits, like brandy or distilled liquors, were rare and expensive, typically reserved for medicinal purposes or the very wealthy, and certainly not a common offering in the average tavern. The concept of a cocktail menu was centuries away. The medieval tavern offered what was available, what was safe, and what was affordable. If it was wet and it didn't kill you immediately, it was considered a fine vintage, a testament to the pragmatic approach to sustenance in a challenging world. The serving of these drinks was a ritual in itself. There were no taps, no sophisticated dispensing systems. Ale and mead would be drawn directly from large wooden barrels, often stored in a cool cellar or a back room, and brought out as needed. The tavern keeper, or their assistants, would use a large ladle or a spigot to fill the tankards, often with a practiced flourish, the clinking of ceramic mugs or wooden tankards, the slosh of liquid, and the occasional spill were all part of the ambient soundscape of the tavern. The drinks were consumed quickly, often in large quantities, reflecting the social nature of the establishment and the desire to escape the harsh realities of daily life. The social aspect of drinking in the medieval tavern cannot be overstated. It was a communal activity, a shared experience that fostered camaraderie and loosened inhibitions. People drank together, toasted together, and often sang together. The act of sharing a drink was a bonding ritual, a way to forge connections and strengthen social ties. The drinks themselves, particularly the ale, were not just intoxicants. They were social lubricants, facilitating conversation, encouraging storytelling, and providing a much-needed release from the stresses of medieval existence. The very act of raising a tankard to one's lips was a gesture of participation, a silent acknowledgement of one's place within the vibrant tapestry of the tavern community. Furthermore, the economic significance of these drinks was immense. The sale of ale, mead, and cider was a primary source of income for the tavern keeper and a significant contributor to the local economy. Brewing was a widespread industry, often undertaken by women, and the production and sale of these beverages supported countless livelihoods. The taxes levied on ale and other drinks were also a source of revenue for local lords and the crown, making the humble tavern a surprisingly important cog in the medieval economic machine. The flow of liquid sustenance was directly linked to the flow of coin, ensuring the continued prosperity of both the establishment and the wider community. In conclusion, the drinks of the medieval tavern were far more than simple beverages. They were a reflection of the times, a testament to human ingenuity in the face of adversity, and a vital component of the social, economic, and cultural life of the medieval world. They provided sustenance, solace, and a much-needed escape from the rigors of daily existence. From the cloudy, nutritious ale to the sweet, potent mead, each drink told a story, a narrative of survival, celebration, and shared humanity. So, as you imagine yourself raising a tankard in that smoky, bustling common room, remember that you are not just drinking. You are participating in a timeless ritual, a connection to a past where every sip was a small victory against the uncertainties of life. And with that, let us turn our attention to the sustenance that accompanied these potent libations. The food. You've settled into your spot, perhaps near the hearth, the warmth seeping into your weary bones, and you've had your first taste of the tavern's liquid offerings. Now, the hunger, a persistent companion throughout your journey, makes its presence undeniably known. But cast aside any notions of a printed menu, of diverse culinary options, or of a chef meticulously crafting individual dishes. The medieval tavern's approach to food was, like much else in this era, driven by practicality, necessity, and the available resources. You're hungry, yes, but don't expect a culinary journey. Expect sustenance, pure and simple, designed to fill your belly and provide the energy needed to face another day in a challenging world. The undisputed star of the medieval tavern's culinary repertoire was pottage. This was not a dish prepared fresh for each patron. It was a communal, continuous stew, often simmering over the hearth for days, if not weeks. Imagine a thick, hearty concoction that has been bubbling away since Monday, and it's now Thursday. The ingredients would vary wildly depending on what was available, what was cheap, and what needed to be used before it spoiled. It was a true peasant's dish, designed for maximum sustenance with minimal waste. The base would typically be grains, oats, barley, or wheat, cooked down with water or broth until thick and porridge-like. To this, whatever vegetables were at hand would be added: onions, leeks, cabbage, turnips, carrots, and wild greens. These would be chopped roughly and thrown into the pot, contributing to the ever-evolving flavor profile. Meat? Perhaps. The inclusion of meat in pottage was a luxury, not a guarantee. If meat was available, it would likely be small game or less desirable cuts, possibly rabbit, caught in a snare or hunted in the nearby woods. Perhaps pigeon, a common source of protein in medieval towns, often nesting in church eaves or barn rafters, or in a stroke of misfortune for the animal, the unlucky chicken that wandered too close to the tavern's back door. These meats would be boiled down until tender, their flavors melding into the rich, savory broth. Bones and gristle would often remain a testament to the nose-to-tail philosophy of medieval cooking, where every part of an animal was utilized. The pottage was served in simple wooden bowls, often with a large communal spoon, and eaten with gusto, for it was hot, filling, and a welcome respite from the cold and hunger. Accompanying the pottage, and equally essential, was bread. But again, this was not the soft, airy loaf of a modern bakery. Medieval bread was hard, dense, and often made from coarser grains like rye or barley. It was designed to be substantial, to provide lasting energy, and to serve multiple purposes. It was not uncommon for a slice of this hard bread to double as a trencher, a makeshift plate upon which the pottage or other food items would be served. As the meal progressed, the bread would absorb the juices and flavors of the food, becoming a delicious, if somewhat soggy, final course. The texture was often rough, sometimes even gritty, a reminder of the rudimentary milling processes of the time. It was a food of necessity, not of luxury, but its importance to the medieval diet cannot be overstated. Cheese, if available, would often be a hard, aged variety, smelling distinctly of regret, or perhaps, more accurately, of the farm it came from and the passage of time. Unlike modern, pasteurized cheeses, medieval cheese was a living product, its aroma a direct reflection of its fermentation and aging process. It would be sharp, pungent, and intensely flavorful, a stark contrast to the blandness of some other tavern fare. It was a valuable source of fat and protein, a concentrated form of sustenance that could be easily stored and transported. Its strong smell was not a sign of spoilage, but of character, a testament to its rustic origins and its journey from pasture to plate. Despite the apparent simplicity and lack of variety, the food served in a medieval tavern was a crucial element of its appeal. It was hot, it was filling, and it provided the necessary calories to sustain a body engaged in the demanding physical labor of the age. You weren't here for fine dining, for delicate flavors, or artistic presentation. You were here to survive, to replenish your strength, and to find comfort in a warm meal shared among company. The communal nature of the food, often served from a single pot, reinforced the tavern's role as a social hub, a place where people gathered not just to drink, but to break bread together, to share in the fundamental human experience of nourishment. The preparation of food in a medieval tavern was a rudimentary affair, often handled by the tavern keeper or their family. The kitchen, if it could be called that, was typically a small, smoky area near the hearth, equipped with a few basic cooking implements, a large cauldron, a few knives, and perhaps a wooden chopping block. Hygiene, by modern standards, was minimal. Food was prepared in open conditions, exposed to the elements and the general tavern environment. Leftovers were often incorporated into the next day's pottage, ensuring nothing went to waste. This continuous cooking process, while efficient, also meant that the flavors of the pottage would deepen and evolve over time, sometimes for the better, sometimes not. For those who could afford it, or on special occasions, other dishes might be offered, perhaps a roasted fowl, if a chicken or goose was readily available. Fish, especially on fast days, might be stewed or fried. Simple pastries or fruit tarts, if a baker was nearby and ingredients were plentiful, could provide a rare sweet treat. However, these would be exceptions rather than the rule, and the core offering remained the humble, ever-present pottage and bread. The emphasis was on hearty, calorie-dense food that could be prepared in large quantities and served quickly to a hungry crowd. The food also played a role in the social dynamics of the tavern. Sharing a meal, even a simple one, fostered a sense of camaraderie and community. It was a time for conversation, for storytelling, and for forging connections. The act of eating together, breaking bread and sharing from a common pot, transcended social barriers, bringing together people from different walks of life in a shared moment of sustenance. The food was not just fuel for the body, it was a catalyst for social interaction, a binding agent that strengthened the ties between patrons. Moreover, the food served in taverns was often a reflection of local agricultural practices and seasonal availability. What was grown in the surrounding fields? What animals were raised nearby? And what could be easily preserved would dictate the menu. This meant that the culinary offerings of a tavern in a coastal town might differ significantly from one nestled deep in a forest or high in the mountains. This regional variation added another layer of authenticity to the medieval tavern experience, making each establishment unique in its gastronomic identity. In conclusion, the food of the medieval tavern while lacking the sophistication and variety of modern cuisine, was perfectly suited to its time and place. It was honest, unpretentious, and above all, nourishing. It was a testament to the ingenuity of medieval people in making the most of what they had, transforming simple ingredients into hearty meals that sustained bodies and spirits. The pottage, the hard bread, the pungent cheese, these were not just dishes. They were symbols of resilience, of community, and of the enduring human need for sustenance in a world that demanded constant physical exertion. So, as you wipe the last remnants of stew from your wooden bowl, remember that you have not just eaten a meal, you have partaken in a timeless ritual, a connection to a past where every bite was a small victory against hunger and a celebration of shared humanity. And with your belly full, let us now turn our attention to the most fascinating ingredient of all, the people who populated this vibrant, chaotic world. With your belly full of pottage and your thirst quenched by ale, you can finally take a moment to truly observe the vibrant tapestry of humanity that fills the medieval tavern. This is where the true magic happens, where the raw, unfiltered essence of medieval society is on full display. Look around you, and you'll see a microcosm of the age, a living, breathing tableau of characters, each with their own stories, their own burdens, and their own reasons for seeking solace or revelry within these smoky walls. The tavern is a stage, and every patron is both actor and audience, performing, oversharing, and pretending they're not watching the guy slumped under a table. In one corner, a farmer, his hands gnarled and calloused from a lifetime of tilling. The soil is retelling a story about a sideways calf birth. His voice is loud, his gestures expansive, and his audience, a small cluster of fellow villagers, hangs on his every word, chuckling at the familiar trials and tribulations of rural life. This isn't just a story, it's a shared experience, a communal acknowledgement of the hardships and occasional absurdities of their existence. The farmer, usually a man of few words, finds his voice here, emboldened by the ale and the receptive ears of his peers. His tale, perhaps embellished with each retelling, becomes a piece of living folklore, passed down through the generations, a testament to the enduring power of oral tradition in a largely illiterate society. Near the hearth, a bard, his lute perhaps a little out of tune, plays something that is almost musical. His melodies are simple, often melancholic, weaving tales of love and loss, of heroic deeds and tragic fates. He is a wandering minstrel, a purveyor of entertainment and news, his livelihood dependent on the generosity of his audience. His eyes, however, are constantly scanning the room, assessing the mood, searching for a receptive ear or a generous coin. He might sing of distant lands, of legendary figures, or of the latest local scandal, adapting his repertoire to suit the tastes of his patrons. The bard is a vital link to the wider world, bringing stories and songs from beyond the village walls, connecting the isolated communities through the shared language of music and narrative. His performance is not just for entertainment, it is a cultural anchor, preserving history and shaping identity through the power of song. At a table, scarred with knife marks, a soldier, his armor perhaps a little rusty, his face a little too grim, talks of dragons, or perhaps, more accurately, of the horrors of war, cloaked in the fantastical language of mythical beasts. He speaks of battles fought, of comrades lost, of the brutal realities of medieval warfare. His words are punctuated by the clinking of his tankard, his eyes distant, haunted by memories. He is a man who has seen too much, experienced too much, and the tavern offers him a temporary escape from the psychological burdens of his profession. His tales, though perhaps exaggerated for dramatic effect, offer a glimpse into a world of violence and heroism, a world far removed from the mundane routines of daily life. He is a figure of both awe and pity, a reminder of the constant threat of conflict that loomed over the medieval landscape. Across the room, a merchant, his clothes of finer cloth, his fingers adorned with rings, flashes coins like bait. He is a man of commerce, his mind constantly calculating, constantly seeking advantage. He is here to strike deals, to gather information, to expand his network. His conversation is a delicate dance of negotiation, his words carefully chosen, his intentions often veiled. He might be discussing the price of wool, the availability of spices, or the safest routes for his next journey. He is a representative of the burgeoning mercantile class, a force for change in a society traditionally dominated by land and lineage. His presence in the tavern signifies the growing importance of trade and the increasing interconnectedness of the medieval world. He is a symbol of ambition, of enterprise, and of the relentless pursuit of wealth. In a dimly lit corner, a group of locals plays dice, their faces contorted in expressions of intense concentration, hope, and despair. The clatter of the dice against the wooden table is a constant backdrop to their hushed exclamations and muttered curses. Cheating is not just expected, it is an art form, a subtle dance of sleight of hand and misdirection. The stakes might be small, a few coins, a round of ale, but the passion is real. The thrill of the gamble, a powerful intoxicant. This is a common pastime, a way to pass the time, to test one's luck, and to engage in a friendly or not so friendly competition. The dice game is a microcosm of life itself, a game of chance where fortunes can turn in an instant, and where the line between skill and deception is often blurred. And then there is the hooded stranger sitting alone in the deepest shadow, his face obscured, his presence a silent enigma. He drinks slowly, observing everything, saying nothing. Don't make eye contact. His presence is a source of both fascination and unease. Is he a traveler seeking anonymity, a spy gathering intelligence, a criminal lying low? His silence speaks volumes, inviting speculation and fueling the imagination. He is the embodiment of the unknown, a reminder that the medieval world was full of mysteries, of hidden dangers and untold stories. His very existence adds a layer of intrigue to the tavern, a subtle undercurrent of potential drama that keeps everyone on edge. Everyone in the tavern is, in a sense, performing. The farmer, with his exaggerated gestures, the bard, with his carefully crafted melodies, the soldier with his grim tales, the merchant with his calculated charm, the dice players with their feigned innocence, even the hooded stranger with his deliberate silence. Each is presenting a version of themselves, a persona crafted for the public consumption of the tavern, and everyone is watching. The tavern is a place of constant observation, where every word, every gesture, every interaction is noted, analyzed, and often gossiped about. It is a social crucible, a place where reputations are made and broken, where alliances are forged and rivalries ignited. The unspoken rule is to pretend you're not watching, to maintain a veneer of indifference, even as your eyes dart from one dramatic scene to the next. Beyond these archetypes, the tavern is filled with countless other individuals, each contributing to the vibrant tapestry of its human landscape. There are the local gossips, their heads huddled together, whispering secrets and spreading rumors like wildfire. There are the young lovers, stealing furtive glances across the crowded room, their hands brushing accidentally, their hearts pounding with unspoken desires. There are the weary laborers, their faces streaked with dirt and fatigue, seeking a moment of respite before returning to their arduous tasks. There are the occasional beggars, their pleas for charity often met with a mixture of pity and disdain. There are the prostitutes, their painted smiles and suggestive glances, a stark reminder of the darker side of urban life. And there are the children, often present in taverns, either helping their parents or simply observing the adult world with wide, curious eyes. The tavern is a place where social boundaries are, to some extent, blurred, while the rigid class structures of medieval society still held sway. The shared experience of drinking and revelry in the tavern created a temporary sense of equality. A lord might find himself sharing a bench with a peasant. A merchant might engage in a friendly wager with a common laborer. This temporary suspension of hierarchy was one of the tavern's most appealing qualities, offering a rare opportunity for people from different social strata to interact on a more personal level. It was a place where common humanity, rather than social standing, often dictated the terms of engagement. The interactions within the tavern were a constant dance of negotiation, of unspoken rules and subtle cues. There was a shared understanding of the etiquette, however rough and tumble it might seem to modern eyes. Arguments were common, but often resolved through a combination of shouting, a few well-placed shoves, and the intervention of the tavern keeper. Laughter was infectious, spreading through the room like wildfire, a testament to the shared joy of camaraderie. Stories were exchanged, news was disseminated, and bonds were forged, often over a shared tankard of ale. The tavern was a place of vibrant, uninhibited human connection, a space where the full spectrum of human emotion was on display. Ultimately, the people of the medieval tavern are its most compelling feature. They are the heart and soul of the establishment, the reason it exists, and the force that gives it life. They are a testament to the enduring human need for community, for entertainment, for escape, and for a place to simply be themselves, however messy or imperfect that self might be. Each individual, from the boisterous farmer to the silent stranger, contributes to the rich, complex narrative of the medieval tavern, making it a truly unforgettable experience. As you observe them, you realize that you're not just watching history, you are witnessing humanity in its rawest, most authentic form, a timeless tableau that transcends the centuries. And with this understanding of the people, let us now consider the very heartbeat of this extraordinary place, the chaotic symphony that binds it all together. As the night deepens and the ale flows more freely, the medieval tavern reveals its true nature, not just as a collection of individuals or a physical space, but as a living, breathing entity with a distinct sound, a messy, chaotic symphony. That is its very heartbeat. It's a cacophony that defies conventional musicality, yet possesses an undeniable rhythm, a raw, pulsating energy that draws you in and holds you captive. This isn't just noise, it's the sound of life, unvarnished and unrestrained, a testament to the vibrant, often unruly spirit of the medieval world. It's a symphony composed of countless individual notes, each contributing to a grand, immersive auditory experience that is both overwhelming and strangely harmonious. Listen closely, and you'll discern the rhythmic clinks of tankards, ceramic against wood, wood against wood, a constant percussive element that underscores every conversation, every laugh, every argument. These aren't delicate sounds. They are robust, earthy clinks, echoing the sturdy craftsmanship of the drinking vessels and the unrefined nature of their use. Interspersed with this metallic and wooden percussion is the unrestrained burst of laughter, guttural, hearty, sometimes drunken, sometimes genuinely joyful. It erupts from various corners of the room, spreading like wildfire, infectious in its raw exuberance. This laughter is often followed by the equally uninhibited sound of burps, loud and unapologetic, a natural consequence of copious ale consumption and a lack of social pretense. These are not sounds to be polite about. They are expressions of satisfaction, of release, of a body at ease in its surroundings. Then come the arguments, sharp and sudden, cutting through the general hum of conversation. Voices rise in heated debate over a game of dice, a perceived slight, or a political disagreement. The words are often slurred, the logic convoluted, but the passion is undeniable. These arguments are rarely silent affairs. They are public spectacles, drawing the attention of nearby patrons, some of whom might offer unsolicited advice, while others simply observe with detached amusement. Yet, just as quickly as they ignite, these verbal skirmishes often dissipate, dissolving into a shared laugh or a renewed clinking of tankards, a testament to the transient nature of tavern disputes. They are part of the drama, the constant ebb and flow of human interaction that defines the tavern's dynamic atmosphere. And then, the unexpected. A goat bleats. Yes, a goat. Why is there a goat in the tavern? The question hangs in the air, unanswered, a delightful absurdity that perfectly encapsulates the unpredictable nature of medieval life. Perhaps it wandered in from the street, drawn by the warmth and the promise of spilled food. Perhaps it belongs to a patron, a loyal companion brought along for the evening's revelry. Its presence is a charming, if slightly bewildering, detail that adds another layer to the tavern's chaotic charm. It's a reminder that the boundaries between the domestic and the public, the human and the animal were far more fluid in this era, and that life, in all its messy glory, often spilled over into unexpected places. This entire symphony of sounds, the clinks, the laughter, the burps, the arguments, the occasional bleeding goat, creates a unique auditory landscape. It's not just noise, it's a heartbeat. Raw, loud, alive. It makes no sense by modern standards of order and decorum. Yet somehow it works. It's a testament to the human capacity for adaptation, for finding comfort and meaning in chaos. The tavern's heartbeat is the collective pulse of its patrons, a rhythmic thrum that speaks of shared humanity, of connection, and of the enduring need for community in a world that was often isolating and harsh. It's a sound that tells a story, a narrative woven from countless individual lives, each contributing their unique note to the grand composition. As the night deepens and the flickering candlelight casts long, dancing shadows across the smoke-filled room, you begin to understand the tavern isn't just a place, it's an experience. It's a full-body plunge into medieval life, one sticky bench and mysterious stew bowl at a time. It's an immersion into a world where the senses are constantly engaged, where every sight, sound, and smell tells a story. It's a place where the past comes alive, not through dusty textbooks or grand pronouncements, but through the visceral reality of human interaction, of shared laughter and whispered secrets, of the simple joys of food and drink. The heartbeat of the tavern is also the rhythm of its stories. Every clink of a tankard, every burst of laughter, every hushed conversation is a fragment of a narrative, a piece of the larger tapestry of medieval life. The tales told within these walls, whether of heroic deeds or everyday struggles, become part of the tavern's collective memory, echoing through its timbers and permeating its very atmosphere. The tavern is a living archive, a repository of human experience, where the past is not just remembered, but actively relived with each passing night. It's a place where the oral tradition thrives, where stories are passed down from one generation to the next, shaping the collective identity of the community. Furthermore, this chaotic symphony is a powerful antidote to the silence and solitude that often characterized medieval life outside the town walls. For many, the tavern was a refuge from the quiet isolation of rural existence, a place where the constant hum of human activity provided a comforting sense of belonging. It was a place where one could lose oneself in the crowd, yet simultaneously feel profoundly connected to others. The noise, far from being a nuisance, was a reassurance, a constant reminder that one was part of something larger than oneself, a vibrant community united by the shared experience of the tavern. The very lack of modern comforts and conveniences in the medieval tavern forced a deeper engagement with the present moment. There were no distractions of screens or personal devices, only the raw, unmediated reality of human interaction. This forced presence, this immersion in the immediate sensory environment, contributed to the intensity of the tavern experience. Every sound, every smell, every sight was amplified, creating a heightened sense of awareness and a profound connection to the moment. It was a place where life was lived fully, without filter or pretense. And finally, the heartbeat of the tavern is a testament to the enduring human spirit. Despite the hardships, the diseases, the constant struggle for survival, medieval people found ways to celebrate, to connect, and to find joy in the simple pleasures of life. The tavern was a sanctuary for this spirit, a place where inhibitions could be shed, where laughter could flow freely, and where the burdens of the day could be temporarily forgotten. It was a place of resilience, of community, and of the unwavering human need for connection and revelry. The chaotic symphony of the tavern is a powerful reminder that even in the most challenging of times, humanity finds a way to sing, to laugh, and to celebrate the very act of being alive. This was only the beginning of our journey into medieval tavern life. We've merely scratched the surface of this fascinating world, exploring its sights, sounds, and smells, and meeting some of its most intriguing inhabitants. But the night in a medieval tavern is long, and there are many more stories to be told, many more experiences to be had. Stay tuned for the next part of our adventure, where the night truly unfolds into a whirlwind of games of chance and skill, the blossoming of unexpected romances, the eruption of sudden, violent brawls, and possibly, just possibly, another encounter with that enigmatic goat. Yes, really, the medieval tavern, in all its messy, glorious complexity, awaits your return, ready to reveal even more of its hidden depths and its enduring legacy.